Good morning, everybody, and welcome to SoFIA Coffee Chat. We are here this morning for a special back-to-school edition of our Coffee Chat. I am joined by some pretty wonderful guests who I will introduce in just a minute. But first, I wanted to introduce you all to SoFIA, if you are unfamiliar. So my name is Dee Goldstein. I'm the Director of Development at SoFIA, and SoFIA is a nonprofit think and act tank that empowers people as they age. On the ACT side, we provide social services for older adults through our volunteer corps of over 500 volunteers. One of those programs is the Foster Grandparent Program, which places older adult volunteers in over 59 Broward County schools and childcare centers. This morning, we are joined by our guests for the think tank part of our agency, which brings people together to talk about really important topics in our community. I would like to welcome Mayor Dale Holness to our conversation. Mayor, thank you so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And School Board Member Donna Korn, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thrilled to be invited. Thank you so much.
And SoFIA's very own Cresha Reid, who is the Director of the Foster Grandparent Program. Cresha, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you so much for having me and to be on a call.
So school is starting back up August 19th, and this has been a hotly discussed issue for several months now. Donna, can you please give us a little bit of a summary of what are we doing when school starts August 19th?
I would be happy to. So school is going to look virtually different than it did at the end of the last school year. The last school year, a lot of it was, obviously it was something that we were just rolling into, right? But we had our teachers who were online, and some of them would actually come up and do chats, but they all really ran their classrooms very differently. This is going to be a much more structured classroom setting, even though it's a virtual setting. There will be a start time to the day in the morning, and elementary, high school, and middle all have separate start times. They will have a regular class schedule, so you're going to go into, and when I say go into, you will actually be virtually in your classroom with your teacher. Your teacher will be online, available to chat with you. And every day will be a little bit different depending on what the teacher has set up for that class. But you will literally be going through your school day, but on a virtual platform.
Okay, so how did this plan come together? Who was involved in creating this plan, and who will continue to be involved to move this plan forward as the months go by and we might need to reevaluate how students are learning throughout the year?
So that's a great question. It's really been multifaceted. Obviously, the superintendent's role is to guide and give the leadership in that area. But the reality is it's been his entire cabinet, everybody down at the school district leadership level, and certainly getting voices from the teachers as well as the families. There have been many different surveys that have been going out in terms of needs and wants from the community. The superintendent has worked actually with the school board on several different plans. And as the impact of COVID continues to have different impacts on our community, there's been flexibility and fluidity in that plan. So initially we started with the concept of hybrid, and then as the numbers continued to go in the negative for our local community, there was a lot of input from the medical community, and with that additional direction, there was a decision, at least initially, to go into a virtual platform. We would continue to watch those numbers and to get the information from the medical experts as to when is the safe point in which we can start to transition back into actual brick and mortar classrooms.
Great. And Mayor Holness, I know that even though we're going back virtually, a hybrid option might be a possibility later in the year, which would create additional pressures on school nurses and support staff. But even in this virtual setting, how are cities in Broward County able to help the support staff at home, which are the parents and the staff in the classroom, the teachers and the school staff?
So Superintendent Runcie had a conversation with me earlier this week about the possibility of us utilizing some of the care funds we have to get nurses into the classrooms. On Friday at 1 o'clock, I have a mayor's call. I do one each week to update the mayors and for us to be working in unison, fighting COVID-19 and other issues that we may face. And I'll have a discussion with them to see whether or not some portion of the CARES Act that they will receive can be utilized within their cities to provide the nursing assistance that would be necessary. One of the other things that Superintendent Runcie pointed out to me and to other of us elected leaders is that transportation, if they were to go with staggered classes and do the hybrid, may be a challenge because you won't be able to have as many kids in class or in the buses at any given time. You need to socially distance. And he was looking to see whether or not we could find some way to support them if they were to do that. Now, at this point in time, with the classes being virtual, we probably won't need to do that. And he also talked about opportunities for us to be able to have support for those kids who might not be in class within our parks or someplace where we can assist with providing some outlet for them to be able to help. So we want to work in a collaborative way with the school board, certainly. The other thing that is pointed out to us also is the need for daycare and early learning centers to be supported. That's really a critical area that not much focus is given to. But when the older children goes to school, what happens to the younger one when the parents go out to work? How do we help support that? So part of what I've asked our county administrator to do is to look to see how we can help supplant some of those funding that these daycare centers, early learning centers have to help them with carrying out the protocols that we need to have in place to prevent the spread of COVID-19. They have to have more distances, smaller classes, and lesser groups. That is stressing on their system. And also as a result, many are now closed. So how can we help fund them to be reopened, targeting especially the communities that have the lowest income? That's where we're probably going to find the greatest need to help. So that's something we're looking to see how we can help with that. I mean, the school board is a part of our system here in Broward County, and we have to work collaboratively, especially now that we're pretty much at war with COVID-19, and all of us have to be in this fight, and we must unite to defeat it. It is the most daunting thing that I've seen in my entire life. This has been just unbelievable, and it's new. It's not something that we know. A hurricane came. We're prepared. We know what the drill is. We know how to prepare for that because we do it all the time. This is not something, this is new. You have to adapt and adjust as you go along in order to find a way forward and find balance also in how we disrupt people's lives and their businesses. And it's not easy at all. It's a tough challenge for us, but I think we are able to rise to the occasion. And we see this past week that we've seen a leveling off and maybe a little flattening and some decrease in some parts of the gating criteria that we have in order for us to stay open or to even expand what we do for opening. Now, it's only a week, so we can't use that as basically where we're going to be in the future. We have to continue doing the things that the CDC says, and it seems simple, and we talk about it all the time. Wear facial covering, distance yourself from others.
I think that is a great rallying call to everyone to come together and remember that it does take a village to raise a child, and in this case, to overcome the COVID pandemic.
And if I may, I just want to just say thank you to the foster grandparents that are out there, that are in our schools. I spent a little time with some over at MLK, Martin Luther King Elementary, and I got to tell you, I was extremely impressed with the care that they show for the children and how the children love them. It is a remarkable thing. I'd love to see us expand it even more than it is, because I think it's something that works quite well, and the teachers are very happy to have these foster grandparents beside them in the classrooms.
Thank you. And thank you to both the school board and Mayor Holness's office and all of Broward County for the support given to the Foster Grandparent Program. We've seen over and over that it really makes a difference. And on our end, as a community organization, we really appreciate what both the school board and the county are doing to keep people informed, to keep people protected, and to ride the wave of this really unprecedented and unknown experience that we're having in the pandemic. I know a lot of people want answers and a lot of certainty in a space where there's not a lot of certainty. And I think this is a great reminder that we all need to come together and look at the global community view and really take care of each other. So thank you for that information and that reminder, Mayor. And we look forward to additional information as it comes up in terms of the city and the county's recommendations moving forward. And at this time, I'd like to ask Cresha to speak about what the Foster Grandparents Program has been doing this summer and what's the plan so far for SoFIA's foster grandparents for this coming school year.
So like you addressed earlier, our foster grandparents pre-COVID-19, they work one-on-one with the students in the classroom. So about 20 hours a week, they are in 60 schools, childcare centers, and traditionally in the summertime, they also provide support in the libraries. So we had to quickly transition to virtual to protect them for safety. So that's our first thing, was safety, because they are a vulnerable population. Our volunteers are 55 years of age and better. I like to say better, not older, because as they age, they get better with time and have more experience that they can impart to the students. And I really appreciate the relationship that I see that they have with them, and even me as a young adult, how they kind of support me and support the work that we want them to do in the community. So safety is one of our biggest things. So what we've been doing over the summer is training them on how to use their technology devices, because we know that school is going virtual. We want to be able to support them in that. So we've been working with an organization called Cyber Seniors to provide training to our volunteers to learn how to use Zoom. So that's the first platform that they're learning how to use. So we actually had a in-service training in May. That was our first, kind of go around to see how it would work. And then we realized, okay, well, let's determine what kind of devices our volunteers have, how we can help them get to learn how to use it. So I shouldn't say if, when, we get the confirmation from the school district on how we can provide them with support, they have the tools that they need. So they'll learn how to use Zoom to be able to do reading, doing flashcards, providing support in math, maybe doing some cooking demonstrations, doing some type of activities they can provide virtually to students. So that way that there is no gap in service, that the teachers still feel supported, that the kids continue to feel supported, because now they either are using their smartphone, their tablet, or their laptop or computer to provide support. We hope that we can incorporate this in our training ongoing so that they can learn how to use other platforms. So maybe learning how to use Microsoft Teams, maybe also using some of the platforms that is being used in the school district. So that way they can continue growing and continue learning. And the good thing about it, our program is a dual benefit. It's not only for the students, it's for the foster grandparent, because this is a skill that they could use with their family. They could, host their own meetings with their family members and their friends, in addition to providing support to the students. And then we're also working with them to do other direct services. So if virtual may not be the plan for some schools, that's not their need, they can do other direct services, such as like maybe a pen pal program where they're assigned to a classroom and they're writing letters to students, or they're assigned to a couple of students and that's their pal that they're writing to every day. Most of our volunteers, they serve infants all the way to 5th grade, but a lot of them are serving infants all the way to like 1st grade. So they are basically setting the foundation for these kids. And when they get to the older grades, they remember our foster grandparents. So this is a way for them to figure out new ways to connect with them other than just doing face-to-face. And I think our foster grandparents are very excited and very eager. And also some of the schools have reached out to me as well. They are eager to have the support of their grandmas. We call our volunteers grandmas and grandpas. We mostly have grandmas. So they're like, when is my grandma coming back? And I have the grandmas calling me and said, I miss my babies. I need to be with them. So, we're trying our best, of course, to make sure it's safety first, and then working with the school district on when and how we can provide the support. But right now we're focusing on getting them the tools needed so that when it's time for them to give that support, they can do it.
And for any child who needs that grandma experience in the interim, we also have the Reading with Grandma initiative,
Yes.
where a new video goes up every single Monday on the SoFIA website with one of our foster grandmas reading a portion of a children's book and resources about where they can get these books. So we want to make sure that kids are feeling the love from their grandmas and developing a love for reading. Even though they might not be able to interact with their grandma in a classroom setting yet. So Donna, what's the best way for parents to prep their kids for this new back to school experience that's unlike they've ever experienced before?
So before I jump on that question, I just want to have the opportunity to let you know, you actually are one of the very first organizations that reached out to the district to say, how can we be flexible with our foster grandparent? How can we keep our members involved and engaged with our students? So I have to just give you kudos that there was absolutely no chance that this was going to pause during this COVID. And we really, truly have to thank you for being such an amazing partner and making sure that not only for the benefit of our students, but I think even for your members, I think that engagement is something that really keeps the vitality and just that feeling of youthfulness and engaging with the kids. And there's really nothing like it. So anyway, back to your question. Sorry to divert for a second, but I definitely needed to point that out. So in terms of getting our students ready, if you go to the Broward School site, there are resources that are online. One of the things is obviously you want to make sure that you have the infrastructure ready. So you want to make sure that you have your laptop or whatever device you're going to be using and that it's functional. And if it isn't, you need to make sure that the school is aware of that, because we are going to do an additional distribution of laptops. So if you had one last year, but something happened over the summer and you need one this year, that distribution is going to be available to you. And in fact, the schools have been doing outreach just this week to make sure that we know all of the students who might need something. So if your situation has changed from last year, that doesn't mean that you don't have a laptop. We're going to be taking care of that. Secondly, it's going to be also your connectivity. And you want to make sure that you have connectivity, obviously, at your home or from whatever setting your child is going to be online. Again, there is an opportunity. If you go to the browardschools.com, you will find that there is information under the COVID section of the website, and there it talks about internet options. And there are some reduced costs for internet options directly there on the school website. If there are any additional issues along those lines, you should definitely make your school aware. That way your school will have an opportunity to be able to work with you directly. We actually gave out at the end of last year over 1,200 hotspots, because we obviously have students who are in situations where even if it's a reduced cost, it's still something beyond their means. And for that reason, we still needed to be able to provide that support. So we were able to do that outreach and be able to connect them. But that's kind of an ongoing issue, right? Where we were yesterday doesn't mean we're in the same position today. And so at any point, if there are issues, we just need you to communicate with the school so that we're able to assist in getting that infrastructure to you.
Thank you. And SoFIA will continue to collate all of these resources and bits of information in one place over on the SoFIA blog. So we'll make sure to link families to the Broward School Board site and any additional resources that our speakers will provide for us. So we did have a couple of questions that came in through email and also a few questions that came in through the chat. One of the questions was around food security and distributing meals throughout the school year. And this is a question for both the mayor and for Ms. Korn. What are the food resources that are available to families and to students during the school year? Will the school be providing meals? How will pickup work? How can parents get support with food insecurity?
So I'm happy to start, and then Mayor Holness, if you want to kind of fill in from there. So we've been able to offer grab-and-go lunches. Our cafeteria workers have worked diligently since the first day that schools closed. They continued to work and provide these grab-and-go meals. So there's the opportunity, you come up to the school, and then there will be multiple meals on any given day, however those are going to be assigned going forward. Over the past summer, there were 2 days a week, and during those 2 days a week, you could basically pick up your meals, breakfast and lunch, for the entire week. So that gave you an opportunity to be able to not have to go to the school every day. Unfortunately, there are parameters around being able to deliver lunches to students. You actually have to come onto campus for our funding to be able to cover those costs. But we did actually have a very smooth transition of it last year. And, you know, I went to a couple of the sites. It was incredible what our cafeteria workers were able to do, because they come outside of the school and have a whole setup, and literally you have a choice of different options, and they are handed to you right at the at your vehicle, and that will continue. It is important that our families go and sign up for the free and reduced lunches. That's something that happens every single year. And just because you had it last year doesn't mean that carries over to this year. So everybody is encouraged to go again on browardschools.com and to be able to get the information so that you can do it. It's a very, actually fairly simple application, but you want to apply for that so that you are eligible for the free and reduced lunches as well. Once we go back to school in a hybrid model, we're looking at a couple of different opportunities. One will be that the lunches potentially will be delivered to the classroom. The other will be, again, depending on what numbers we have at that time, you may go into the cafeteria, pick up a lunch, and then go back into the classroom. But again, that's going to be a transition based on the number of students we have at that given time, as well as the resources that we have deployed at the school at that same time.
Thank you.
So we've been involved with Feed in South Florida, which is a major food distribution group within South Florida, with food distribution through our parks and through various methods throughout the community with churches and other entities. The sheriff's office, Sheriff Tony, actually took some money out of his budget also to partner with us to provide for prepared meals. Not just what we do with Feed in South Florida, but where someone can get a meal. And working with our churches and other local nonprofits, we're able to distribute quite a number of that. I think we're going to continue to see us do more of that as the economy stays stagnant as it is, and so many people are out of work. We have to do everything we can. And I must commend the school board for their agility in providing these lunches. It really provides a tremendous help to low-income people especially. And I want to advise anyone who's listening that when they sign up for these free and reduced lunches, it provides more funding than just for free and reduced lunches to our school system. It is really critical that folks who qualify for it sign up for it and not be embarrassed by it, but sign up so that we can get the other resources into the schools, into the community that's needed to create prosperity for all the people of Broward County, and to, in some instances, provide a safety net for so many that are out there that need the help that these funding can help. And complete the census. If you haven't done it yet, it's critical that you complete the census.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you. Now, one question we received in our comment section from Randolph, he asks, since school's reopening impacts the entire community, what is the plan for when a breakout is detected at a school and its immediate community? Certainly when we're virtual, I think this question applies to what happens if a teacher does contract COVID? And then when we're back to a hybrid method, what happens on the school level when someone who is in a classroom does catch COVID?
I can tell you that I speak to Dr. Paula Tachi, who is the director for the Department of Health in Broward County. And whenever there is a outbreak within any institution, she sends folks in to test them. The resources go in to make sure that we're able to test, isolate, and inform the people there of steps that they need to take. And we've done that with several of our early learning centers that we found outbreak in, that she's gone in and put the resources in order to test everyone there and ensuring that folks are isolating if they've come in contact with someone within that institution. Because if we don't do that, then the spread gets broader.
And at the school board level, what we have, obviously there'll be protocols once we do go back. We already actually have educators and administrators on our campuses. So there are protocols that are already in place. And in fact, I get notifications when there's someone even just down at our Casey Wright administration building. So there's a notification that goes out that someone has been infected. And so there's then a very thorough cleaning that takes place. And then there are steps once they've determined that the setting is safe again, then the facility is open again. Once we get back into an actual hybrid model where we're engaging students on campuses, those protocols will be protocols that the community is aware of, so they understand what will be coming in the event that we do have to shut down. And in terms of the time frame, how long will a facility be shut down? Again, those protocols are going to be established once we get back into the classroom settings.
Okay, so it's one of those things where we're working on it, but there has to be some flexibility to be able to be reactive to situations as they emerge.
Absolutely, that was very well put.
One question that came up from Sierra in our chat is, are teachers going to be able to utilize outside resources like Google Classroom and Zoom, or will it be on an internal platform provided by the school? And as a follow-up to that, Lisi, I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name, but she asks, there might be some teachers who can't afford Wi-Fi. Will they be eligible for free or reduced Wi-Fi similarly to the students?
So the detail of the free and reduced Wi-Fi for teachers, I wouldn't want to speak out of turn and indicate that that would be available, although I would tell you that I would imagine that the district will be able to provide, if it's not directly through the providers, the district itself will be able to work with teachers. So absolutely, if there is a teacher or any staff member that is responsible to be virtual with our students, if there are any concerns whatsoever, please reach out to whoever your administrative staff is. We want to take care of that as quickly as possible. We want to make sure not only do you have the infrastructure at your home, but we want you to feel secure in the fact that you are prepared for the school year as it approaches. In terms of the software, so what we have done is Teams is the platform that we're using. And there were some concerns at the end of last year, which were very valid concerns about how many students could you see at one time and its capacity. What we have done is work very directly with Teams to be able to expand. And in fact, you can now have up to 49 people in your Teams meeting. So the platform has been adjusted specifically to meet our needs, and there have been a lot of additional functionalities that have been added to the Teams platform for our use. The intention is for us to be using Teams going forward, so there's consistency, and so that our students are familiar with the platform. They're not going back and forth between platforms, as well as for our teachers too as well.
Great, thank you. And one last question before we have to wrap up. The question was raised that some parents may be teachers in Miami-Dade County, but their students go to school in Broward County. What coordination is occurring or needs to occur to make sure that they're able to juggle both their jobs and being parents cross-county? Oh, and you're on mute.
Yeah, there we go. Thanks, sorry. That's something that we've addressed at our school board meetings. And in fact, our school board workshops, we've been having them every Tuesday. The next one actually will be this coming Monday. And that's going to basically be a outline of final decisions regarding what virtual school is going to look like on August 19th for the entire county. With that said, the time frame in terms of when we're starting and how it's aligning, not just with Dade County, but also with Palm Beach, it is something that we've considered. It is something that we've looked at. But we also have our own priorities in terms of what we are trying to accomplish and address for our students specific to Broward. And one of the things that we know has occurred is what we call the typically the summer slide. And in this case, it's been further impacted by the COVID slide. And that is where our students start to fall behind because of a lack of that classroom experience. And in this case, the virtual classroom experience that we are going to be offering our students in Broward County is one we know there's going to be a great deal of benefit. And the longer we put off being able to be engaged with our students, the more this slide is impacted. And so it is really important to us to focus on the educational aspect of it. Obviously, again, there is flexibility because our teachers are going to be allowed to teach from their classroom if they choose. But if they choose to teach from home, they're allowed to do that as well. And just like at the end of last year, we know that our teachers struggled with having their own students to educate and to oversee while they were doing their own instruction. So one of the things that we're doing is offering at the elementary level a morning class setting and then also an evening class setting, so that you would start potentially in elementary school at 8 a.m. or you may choose the evening option, which would be at 2 o'clock. That way, as a parent, you have the flexibility to be able to be engaged early in the day with your student and to make sure that they're effectively getting the best education available to them. Or if you need to work in the earlier hours and you want to choose the evening option, and you would start potentially around 2 o'clock. That way you can be more engaged. So we are definitely working with the other counties along the opportunity of also engaging with them for sports. We're also trying to roll out as much as we can together, but we are not, I guess, dictating what our schedule will be around the other counties, but we are constantly coordinating and being in contact with them.
Fantastic. Well, unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today. This is obviously an ongoing discussion, and that will continue to ebb and flow as the school year starts and the school year goes on. I really want to thank both Broward County and the Broward School Board for their commitment to our students and our families, both in making their educational experience a really strong one for this unusual school year, and for working to keep our families safe, and of course supporting the Foster Grandparent Program. And thank you to all of our foster grandparent volunteers who have weathered this storm with us and are doing what they can to improve the lives of our students every day. Thank you very much for all the questions that we've received. If you haven't received an answer to your question yet, or you have additional questions, please feel free to send us a note at my email address or on the SoFIA website, both of which I will put down in the comments. For all of our participants today, we are providing a resource. It is a worksheet called Back to School Tips from Grandma, with some excellent resources about going back to school, including links to school board and the CDC. So the link that I am pasting right now in the chat box is where you will be able to get that resource. If you have RSVP'd for this conversation, that will come directly to your email. I want to thank again Ms. Donna Korn from the school board, Mayor Holness, and Ms. Cresha for joining us today for this really important conversation. We will continue to follow up with all of you and be posting additional resources and information in the SoFIA blog, so check back soon. SoFIA Coffee Chat will be back in 2 weeks, so stay tuned for that. Thank you, everybody. Have a safe and happy Wednesday.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, and stay safe, everyone. We're in this together, all of us.
Yes.
Thank you.